Okay, so continuing my tier list on FromSoft bosses, I had a disclaimer in the last video that I don't think Sekiro bosses are neatly comparable to Elden Ring, Dark Souls, or Bloodborne bosses. And I can't totally articulate it. The best argument I have is that they test a different skill set. They don't really have, the bosses don't really have moves so much as they have a rhythm. And it's gratifying in its own way, but in a way that's different. So I had a hard time putting comparisons together. But I'm going to try my best here, and I'm putting this in a separate video because I think that's the appropriate way to do it. A little bit more about Sekiro. I've only played it once, so I obviously haven't experienced bosses that are part of a different ending. I did the ending where you end up fighting Ishin's Sword Saint, not the Shura ending where you fight Emma and old Ishin. I played this game also without looking anything up, besides some main game routing when I got lost once or twice, so I have no idea what like the inner bosses are. I don't know how to find them, or what the deal is with them, so I'm not going to be able to rank them. I didn't fight all of the side bosses, I just fought a few of them. So this is going to be kind of an incomplete list, but I figured I ought to at least give an attempt at it. I am going to replay Sekiro someday. It was an amazing game. So I'll look up what these inner fights are, and I'll find them and include them if I ever make a follow-up video. So without further ado, my best attempt at comparing Sekiro bosses to Soulsborne bosses. The Chained Ogre, it's fine. I'm going to put it in kind of a low C tier, because it wasn't really a challenge. It was definitely, I don't think it taught you all that much. There are samurai mini-bosses that you fight in the lead-up to the Chained Ogre that I think teach you more about the game, and then the Chained Ogre feels actually a little bit different, so I didn't love the fight. So I'm going to put it in kind of a low C tier. The Blazing Bowl, I think, doesn't belong in this game. It's not clear what's parryable, so I'm going to put it pretty low, kind of a high D tier, because it was a fine fight. Like, if this was a Dark Souls boss, it would have been great. It reminds me a lot of Vort. But Sekiro has a completely different combat style. It's not clear what you can parry. If I recall, I don't think the charges are jumpable. It just wasn't a very fun fight for this game. So putting it kind of low. Juzu, another one that isn't very fun. He is surrounded by a lot of enemies, so I guess you could consider him a mob boss, although you can pull him without too much work. So he's also going to be pretty low. I'm going to put him in the D tier. He is a little bit more appropriate for this game, though, so I'm going to put him high D, above Blazing Bowl. Gyobu is, I think, really kind of the first actual boss in this game, and he's really great. He is riding a horse, but it feels right for this game. His attacks are parryable. I like him about as much as, like, my favorite mini-bosses, so like Elamur, or like Bloodstarved Beast is a real boss in Bloodborne, but it kind of feels like a mini-boss. That's where I'd put Gyobu. When I replay Sekiro, I will look forward to the Gyobu fight again. Samurai General, where was that? Okay, no. So Snake Eyes is one of the cooler mini-bosses. I fought both of them. I just enjoyed the fight, so I actually sought out the second one before the Guardian Ape fight, or rather the Duo Ape fight. I enjoy it. I think he has an interesting moveset, and it's cool to find out that his grab attack is actually parryable. And if you stay in close, then he's a lot easier than if you leave yourself open to his bullets. So I enjoyed the fight a lot. I am going to go ahead and put that in kind of a mid to high B tier. Oh, I had already ranked Samurai General. So Samurai General, not sure why he was in here already, but I was going to put him in B tier as well. I think this is referring to the samurai at the base of Ashina Castle the first time you're there. And I like him. He, again, I don't have a lot to say about these fights because I don't really have movesets. They have rhythms. So I liked the fight. He was a fine fight. A few more mini bosses. The Armored Warrior I thought was really cool. It was cool to have like a Dark Souls looking fight in Sekiro, but I will say this one isn't a Dark Souls fight. This is a Sekiro fight, and it feels like a Sekiro fight. I think they did a good job, and I just like the aesthetic of the Armored Warrior because it reminded me of Dark Souls, which I prefer. So I will quite look forward to fighting him again. I'm going to put him in the A tier. I like him a little bit more than Gyobu. I like him more than the Bloodstarved Beast. He's sort of like a Dragon Slayer armor type to me. Aggressive, not overly difficult, but fun, makes you feel accomplished at the game. The Miss Noble, not really sure how to rank because it is just a joke. So I'm going to put it, I think, are there other joke bosses in here? No, these D tiers are mostly like bad bosses. So I'm going to put him like the Tibia Mariner is kind of a joke. So I'm going to put him right around there. Okay, Lady Butterfly is a cool fight, The gimmicks are kind of interesting with the kids and with the jumping around, and it's not too hard. I'll look forward to it. And she feels more important than some of the other fights. I'm going to put her right here. Also, I think a little bit comparable to Dragon Slayer Armor. She's a little bit cooler than Dragon Slayer Armor. So, okay, Genichiro Ashina, the first time you fight, well, not the first time at the beginning of the game, but the first time you beat him, I think is an incredible fight. This is where I really learned the game. I think he's probably my favorite fight from the game. I don't think he's the best fight, but he's my favorite fight because he forces you to learn how to play Sekiro. And it took me a very long time to get him. That's when I figured out that I wasn't totally playing the game right. And he just has a great rhythm. And it's the first one that kind of sold me on the combat system. I thought it was great. I was really struggling in the game, and I really struggled against him until I wasn't. And he's fun. I'm sure on a subsequent playthrough he won't be nearly as difficult because I now understand the game, but he forced me to understand it, and I think that was a great lesson to learn, and it was very worth it. And beating him was so gratifying, and he had this surprise third phase that wasn't that difficult, but I thought it was scary, and it freaked me out when there was a surprise third phase when I thought I was done with this boss that took me forever to beat. So yeah, S tier, one of the best bosses in the game, one of the best bosses they've ever made, I think, in terms of teaching you how the game works. The folding screen monkeys are a gimmick fight that I don't find particularly interesting or fun. I don't think they're bad. There's just, I just will want it to be over with every time I get there. It's not fun to chase fast monkeys around that aren't attacking you. So the Guardian Ape, I also think is an incredible fight. I'm going to put it in S tier because I really loved learning its moves. I don't think it's as good as Gaius. I think it's kind of more comparable in terms of how I think about it to Radon, where I really enjoy it. It's just, I don't know, it's fun. It was really fun to learn the first phase moves. It felt like it didn't belong in Sekiro, but then it turns out it did. And that was a cool revelation. When I first was fighting it, I was like, there's no way this is going to make sense in this game. But a lot of its attacks are parryable, and I think it's really well balanced. And the surprise second phase, after you think it's done, and you get a title screen, is really cool. And the second phase, actually, I ended up liking more, because it's using a sword, so it feels more appropriate for the gameplay. You're not parrying claws, right? You're parrying a sword, which makes a little bit more sense. It was scary, it was erratic, but it made sense and was fair. So I think that's one of the best fights in the game. By contrast to the duo fight, I think just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I really did not like this fight. It felt thoughtless. There are just two of them. There's one that's in phase 1 and one that's in phase 2 at the same time. They don't play off of each other in any kind of defensible way. They're both very aggressive. The only time you have an opening is when the one that's in phase 2 does a big AoE scream, and then you have time to get 1 or 2 hits off on the other one. I thought it was a very bad fight. The whole time I was fighting it, I was like, this can't be what they intended. It felt like a joke. It felt impossible. There is a strategy, and it ended up working out if you use the prosthetic tool, the Shinobi Firecracker, but it just wasn't enjoyable, and I'm going to skip it every time I play it. Owl, similar to Genichiro, an S tier, in fact, same arena. I liked Genichiro better just because of what it taught me in the game. By the time I got to Owl, I understood the game, and so it kind of just felt like a redux of the Genichiro fight, even though it was a little bit, that's what I mean. He has a different moveset, but it feels kind of like the same type of fight because it's just a rhythm fight. So all these fights feel very similar to me with just some minor differences. Owl throws out the little orb that prevents you from healing. That was definitely a difficulty spike for me. But I just didn't like it as much as Genichiro. It didn't feel as rewarding to me. But it was, it was incredible. Like, this combat system is really cool. So the fights that work, Guardian Ape, Great Shinobi Owl, Genichiro, they are all S tier because it's a really fun combat system. So when it works, it works. The Corrupted Monk I did enjoy, but just sort of looking ahead, because there is a 1-to-1 improvement on it, I'm only going to give it an A tier. It had long combos that weren't that punishing, but were punishing if you tried to get greedy or you thought the combo was over. But he, gives you the opportunity to build up a lot of poise damage against him really quickly when he does the spinny, I think 5 or 6 spin swipes. Good fight. But better fight is the True Corrupted Monk. I am such a sucker for 3-phase fights. I always give them S tier, apparently. I think I actually ended up liking True Monk better than Genichiro. But not better than... Yeah, I like him better than Radagon Elden Beast. True Corrupted Monk, it might be one of my favorites in the game. Might be my favorite in the game. It is one of my favorites for sure. I thought it was really cool. I thought the gimmick was interesting and not overly difficult, but it still punished me a couple times where he summons... I looked it up later. I didn't end up doing the plunge attacks to take out like an entire health bar from the tree up above. I didn't realize you could do that. That makes it a little bit less fun. Similar to like parrying Gwyn in DS1, so I'm probably not going to do it if I can help it, because I think the fight is really fun and pretty well balanced and fair and scary and good. Everything you want from one of these fights. When your palms start sweating in phase 3, it's great. It's a great feeling. You finally beat him. It feels great. And he's guarding one of the coolest areas in the game, Fountainhead Palace. So let me get rid of that. So yep, I have no notes for him. Great boss, one of the best in the game. Divine Dragon is a gimmick fight. The first phase is weird and annoying, but it's not difficult. You just get through it. And otherwise, I think the second phase, when you're actually fighting the dragon and he has the the Death Ritual Spear from Elden Ring as his sword, I think it's the best gimmick fight they've ever done. So I really enjoy it. I'm gonna give it like a decently high A, actually. I like it here. I like it more than the Tree Sentinels, and about as much as Soulsborne. I like it more than Soulsborne because it's a little bit easier. So that's my bias. I don't mind easy fights. It is a gimmick, so it's kind of odd to put it this high, but I think it's their best gimmick. I think it was really cool. The Demon of Hatred did not feel like a Sekiro boss. I admittedly did not beat him because it felt impossible and I never figured it out if there is a trick. I didn't look it up because I just didn't care. It is cool where he is in the story, that he's the guy who made you your prosthetic tool, but I just think it is in the wrong game. It feels like a Dark Souls or Bloodborne boss, and it makes no sense to me how to fight it in Sekiro, so I'm giving it an F. Emma and Old Ishin I did not fight. Owlfather, I don't know what that is. So I did not fight. I don't think I fought this person. Orin of the Water was a cool mini-boss. One of the few that I decided to take my time with. Yeah, I just liked her rhythm. She has a couple of really quick swiping attacks that if you block all of them, it builds up a lot of stance damage against her. I like her pretty well. I like her more than Snake Eyes, definitely. I like Matter more. Good mini-boss. And I think she was right before the Corrupted Monk, so that's a part of the game that I liked as well. That's where you're kind of hitting your stride with the combat and you're getting closer to the end, kind of 2/3 of the way through. So she's just at a good place in the game. I'm already at Ishin Sword Saint. I think no surprise that this is an S tier. I don't actually think it's the best in the game. I've obviously heard people saying that he's like the greatest of all time. I just didn't feel that way. And that might just be my bias against Sekiro. Not that I think Sekiro is a bad game, I just didn't like it as much. I like the Dark Souls feel of the combat more, the Elden Ring feel of combat more than Sekiro. And yeah, he was very difficult. He does test every mechanic which is fine. It's great, obviously. He's a really good final boss. For some reason, it just didn't hit with me. Didn't hit with me as hard as it seems to with everybody else. He was amazing. But similar to the others in the S tier for this game, it's just a particular rhythm. His Glock was cool. His spear was cool, tough. So yeah, there it is. I guess that's kind of the grand finale of that one, but I'll see if I am interested in ranking any more of these mini bosses. Not really. None of these mini bosses are really worth ranking for me. So there it is. I added Sekiro. This is a far worse video than my previous one because I don't have as strong of feelings about Sekiro. I've only played it once, and it was quite a few months ago. It's an amazing game. The combat is very interesting. It's not my favorite. I think the best combat is probably Elden Ring or Bloodborne. But there you have it. That is my ranking, including Sekiro. And I will do a quick scroll. Reminder, my favorite of all time is Sister Fried or Gale, kind of interchangeable. Sometimes it might be Hoaraloo. And otherwise, here is the scroll of my tier list for games I've played so far.